Using Logic Trace, I'm going to digitize the attached diagram. This is a full-size diagram. It's about 18 inches by 18 inches. I'm using Logic Trace, and the first thing I'm going to do is define the four corners of the diagram. You can see here where I'm touching the four corners to define the size of the diagram. The next step is to use the line command to trace out the perimeter of the diagram, and also use the curve fit command to go around the corners. Shown here, you'll see that I frequently save my work, even right at the start of the tracing. And by saving my work like that, I can go back to that saved portion and continue tracing. The other thing I like to do is to mark off my starting spots with a red pencil. Keeps track of what's been done, also prevents me from having a crossed vector. This is a detailed diagram, but it's doable. It's doable because it's a good sized diagram, easy to follow. Shown here, I've selected the arc command. The arc command is easy. It's just a matter of touching those spots along the arc. It's almost a full circle, but it's not. Now I'm going to be tracing a lot of those small internal parts, so I'll be using the trace command for quite a bit of that. I use the trace command for any irregular part, so if it's a circle, I'll use the circle command. If it's a line, I'll use the line command. But on parts like this that are irregular, I'll just use the trace command. You can see here where it's important to keep track with that red pencil, because there's a lot of small parts. You could end up tracing something twice. You don't want that when you're tracing vectors. What I'm showing here is tracing out a detailed diagram. I'm going to take that final DXF file. I'm going to load that into a vinyl printer. I'm going to print it, and I'm going to mount that to a canvas tote bag using a heat transfer machine. Also, the printer cuts that graphic out. Also, not to forget here that you save your work frequently. I save my work about every 5 or 6 minutes, so I have a lot of copies. I really like the setting here with the lighthouse and the sun and the boat in the background. I think it's a very calm looking setting. You can see here by the amount of those red marks, it's worthwhile keeping track of what's been traced. When you save your work, the program saves a second copy, and I call that the working copy. What's great about that is you can take a break, say even next day, pick up that work copy, load it, and continue on tracing right from where you left off. You reload that copy under the Options button, and the format of that working copy is *TLG. I use this feature a lot because sometimes when I'm tracing out a certain part, I don't like how it's looking. I'll just go back to my working copy, reload it, and trace it all over again. I find the program fast and easy to use, and it has the ability to be saved in different formats like DXF, PolyDXF, SVG, or PDF. One unique feature the program has is the ability to extend the control window to another device, like a cell phone or an iPad. This gives you the controls right close to where you're tracing. This feature would really speed up your selections. Also, it's good to mention here that the program has the options and setup buttons that you can configure the program to suit your own needs. Here I'm showing a close-up of tracing out those two seagulls. Like I've set up the line width as 0.5 and I've set up the line to be dark black. I want my tracing to look like a black thread. I'm getting to the point now where I'm pretty well finished all my tracing. So now what I'll do is I'll create that final DXF file, which I'm going to load into CorelDRAW. Here I've loaded the file into CorelDRAW, and the idea here is to set up the cut contours and color the diagram and save it as an EPS format for the vinyl print. Once I'm finished with the coloring and saving as an EPS, then that file is loaded into VersaWorks. That's the print routine for the vinyl printer. Mind you, on the Harbour scene there was no coloring except for a bit of gray. I also like to print a bunch of these files just to make use of the vinyl. I mentioned I set up the cut contour in Corel. The cut contour is needed because as the printer prints out that graphic, it will also cut it out. Shown here, the graphic is removed from the printer and the weeding process is started. Now that the weeding has been done, I'll apply the pre-mask, getting ready for the heat transfer. The next step is to set up the heat transfer. The heat transfer is set at 300 degrees F, and I'm going to be giving it a 10-second heat transfer. Then the heat transfer is swung over and pressed onto the graphic. I also added some text to the bottom of that graphic. This is the finished tote bag, and it looks good.